And when YouTube catches up, there we are. Hello! FaceTime for the first time in ages. I know. So, I figured it would be worthwhile to have a little conversation surrounding the whole KCD2 thing. Although... And when you... Shut up, Arch of the Past. Although I think the KCD2 thing's a little bit of a red herring, because this isn't necessarily related to Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 in and of itself. It is merely just the currently expedient example, shall we say. Still, I think it'd be worthwhile going through it a little bit, and I did say in a previous video on this subject that I don't want to be the kind of YouTuber who just ignores the audience, so I wanted to talk directly about some of the points raised, because I think this can be largely explained, honestly. I don't think the disagreement here is all that large, honestly. Even though, you know, I think that video still cost me like 200 subscribers, but, well... At the end of the day, if a differing opinion is enough to chase somebody away, then it was very little I could do to begin with. And I genuinely do believe, incidentally, that if this is not a point that the right, quote, heavy, unquote, can learn from, then we are doomed to simply repeat the journey of the left, but possibly even speedier than it did. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to see another wave of progressivism in my lifetime, if at all possible. So, let's see. Let's open that up. And you were supposed to be a different tab. God, I've forgotten how to do all of this after my 1 week vacation. Never again, chat. Never again. I do not wish to leave my house ever again. Pirate King Thazar for 5. Late, your stick is $5 to VTuber Arch Fund. Considering hiccups, those damn models cost like 10 grand. That's going to be a hiccups lengthy fund. Alexanderson, here's a unique take. KCD2 is only woke if you choose to make it thus. Every gamer should have a choice to make it as woke or based as he or she wishes. When was free choice ever a bad thing? Well, that is one of the interesting arguments, isn't it? Because one of the primary arguments from the developers of KCD2's argument side was, well, why did you add in the gay romance? Why could you bang your best friend? A thing I still deeply disagree with. The argument was player choice. Okay, I see it. I even partially agree with it. I'm of the mind that characters should largely be player sexual, and leave it up to the player himself to determine what character they want to get it on with. However, if that is your argument, why can't you kill Musa of Mali? Why can't you kill every vital NPC? Why can't you simply Morrowind this bitch and have a pop-up come up like, with the death of this character, the thread of fate has been severed? Do you wish to continue to persist in this doomed world, right? Why can't you just do that? And KCD2 is already a rather linear game, where a lot of the quests can only be solved uno wayu, so the whole, like, player choice argument somewhat falls apart. But in KCD2's defense, then again, it is actually really difficult to make a genuinely branching story, because if you have 3 different solutions to a quest, you now need 3 different sets of dialogues to recognize those 3 different solutions. And then you might need 3 different spiraling paths as to the consequences of that solution. Which is why all of the games that promises, like, your choices matter, they never really do, simply because until we have AI capable of generating new quest paths and responses organically, we'll never really have that choice, although many games do it far better than KCD2 does. So Luxon Doppelganger, you need to debate Raging Golden Eagle about this. Oh, I think I already know his stance largely, though, because I think Raging Golden Eagle's position is mostly, I simply don't want to engage with Western media anymore. I am going to move away from it entirely, which is a fair and honest proposition as well, but then you go, okay, either you sever yourself entirely from entertainment, which sucks, or you heavily curate your entertainment, either by going towards Asian entertainment, which has its own promises and pitfalls, or by going solely into indie developers, you know? Only picking and choosing the bits and pieces you wish to play, and that's an entirely valid choice as well, so I don't think there'd be too much disagreement there. Father Jack the Enlightened, until the bad actors are gone out, there's nothing you can do to save an IP. You have to either kick them out or bury the IP for a later date. Well, that is one of the questions we're going to get into then, because it's the question of corruption, isn't it? See, what was that Stone Toss comic? What was that Stone Toss comic? Let me see if I can find it on my Twitter, actually. I promise we'll get to the actual, comments in a moment, I swear. Where was it? I know I tweeted it, but then I went on vacation and the numbers of my tweets increased drastically because I had nothing better to do. Where the hell was it? Ah, yes, there we go. Right. Because this was one of those rare Stone Toss L's where, why can't... I don't want it. Go away. Why can't game companies stop with the DI and be more like Valve 2004? Hey, I'm Black Science Man. Please might my daughter, your Blasian GF. This is not wokeism. Simply having a black character is not wokeism. Because if that is wokeism, then...
guarantees citizenship.
Most of gaming has been woke and has always been woke, and I don't think we want to make that argument because it sounds rather self-defeating. It is the surrender argument, like, oh, if there's a gay romance, it's woke and we must abandon it. I mean, it's abandoning the entire Mass Effect trilogy to the wokeists. I don't want them to have that. I'd rather simply go like, oh, there's a gay romance, it's an LGBT story. No, it's just a player option. That's all it is. It's not for your side. It's not for political reasons. It's literally just people wanted to bang this character. Simple. And I suppose that is really the key differential there. What is woke then becomes the question. And my personal definition would be when politics is involved. When you bring in the intersectional element. That is key. Woke cannot simply be a black character, although it can be a black character. The intent behind the introduction of the change or the character needs to be what decides whether or not it is woke. So, for example, Alex, would not be a DEI hire, whereas Concord would have plenty of them. But that, of course, also then introduces the problem of guessing one's intentions. Musa of Mali, again, this is why KCD2 is such a brilliant example for this.
I have lost.
If it comes out later on that Daniel Vavra is like, yes, I put Musa of Mali in the game solely to piss off Christians, then that was obviously a very, very woke thing to do. But if you put him in because he read the travels of, what was that Muslim scholar dude? Ibn Rusta? I don't remember now. And he was like, that's kind of cool. Let me put one of those in, then fair enough. Ignoring the woke. Was that one already? No, it scrolled by itself, you silly YouTube thing. And until the bad actors are gone, there too. Now, the bad actors will... But how do we remove the bad actors, though? That gets back to the immediate stick question. How do we cancel an IP? Well, again, by wielding the majority against the minority. Since we cannot cancel a product by ourselves. If we could, then GW would already be bankrupt. If we could, EA would have been dead long ago, and so on and so on. We need the majority to dance to our flute in order to effectively cancel these companies. Reverend Norse, goddammit, what's going on? Reverend Norse, Lum Lum said she could probably get you rigged, Arch, as rigged ArchCast as a model for a cheaper price, so blame the footfish for the Lumicast Arch VTuber fund. What, rigging on my cat model? I'll have to ask Lumi what that would cost. I wouldn't imagine the cat model would do much other than shake. Father Jack the Enlightened, and that means withholding support, don't give dollars. Yes, but whose dollars? Again, our dollars don't really matter. Even if everyone watching right now, so about, a little under 700 people, if 700 people decided to not buy a video game, would that be a serious impediment to the video game? Not really. In fact, it would be next to nothing. This is why the whole cancel them with your wallet, vote with your wallet, doesn't work. Now, voting with everybody else's wallet, valid, this is when the accent comes through again, finally, as the V word is difficult to me. Voting with everybody else's wallet is effective, because then you can affect tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. And that is, again, where the stick comes in. So, Jar, the problem with... Goddammit, stop scrolling. The problem with ignoring the woke cancer is that if woke cancer will spread, you cannot ignore it. You have to exercise it. Curry Fun, Star Sector, ArchCat. ArchCat. Now, this too is correct, but once more... Okay, let's get it... We'll need to explain this point first, I think. We need to do that to begin with. I was going to do that via the comment section, but... We'll just get straight to it, shall we? So, stick. What is the stick? And I agree, this was my biggest failing in the Why We Must Claim video, was that I did not adequately categorize and lay out exactly what the stick is, because I kind of thought it was obvious, honestly. So this is the stick. This is what we use to exercise the cancer, right? This is what we use against the companies to get them to do what we want, to not add in politics into video games, or enforce diversity, etc. This is the weapon wielded against Marvel, against DC, against Star Wars, and so on. But what is the stick? Is the stick us? No. The stick is not us because we are a very small stick. We are not even this large of a stick. We are tiny stick. We are a very small stick. We are, in the grand scheme of things, utterly inconsequential as far as sticks go. Even if you were to mobilize the entire audience, so a huge YouTuber, if you were to mobilize every one of Nerdrotic subscribers, what's that, 2 million people or something? Even that wouldn't be enough to deal with a company like Disney. Now, it could probably deal with a company the size of BioWare, for example, but even in that case, we still wouldn't be able to deal with something like the Disney prequels, which sold how many hundreds of millions of tickets worldwide, etc.? This is where the people come in. This is the true form of the stick. The normies, the average Joe, the person who doesn't really know diddly dick about what's going on, who doesn't care, and who, in many cases, doesn't even want to know what's going on, who might even actually be actively resistant to the idea of anything going on at all, until significant political upheaval has occurred to force them to look out their window and go, oh, shit. Yeah, that's pretty awful. This is the true form of the stick. The stick is the majority. It's normies on Twitter, it's normies in video gaming, etc., which, bear you in mind as well, has become largely a normie pastime now. More college frat boys are playing games than ever, and most of them have no idea of the wider, video game space. They just buy the next entry of Call of Duty whenever it comes out, not even bothering to check out the reviews. This is why Call of Duty, despite having been review bombed again and again and again and again, and having had shitter and shitter releases, is still a solid selling product, because the majority of their user base don't actually give a fuck. As depressing as that sounds, most of them just don't care. They just buy the new COD and that's it. That is their entire investment in video gaming. And so again, the gamers, which are the small minority, can't actually get any changes made without mobilizing the stick. Now, moving the stick can be rather difficult. And yet it is the only way to affect large-scale change. The left figured this out as well. The stick was exactly what they used against us during the initial days of Gamergate. The stick is cancel culture. Calling your boss and going, hey, you're being a racist on the internet, won't have any effect if your boss is like, I don't care. It'll be inconsequential.
Question. Fire.
However, if the majority of people view the accusation of racist as something reprehensible, something immoral, something evil and worthy of having your entire livelihood destroyed over, then suddenly the stick is extraordinarily effective. Suddenly you can destroy people's livelihood with just the implication of it, not because the word racist has some sort of magical special power, but because the stick imbues it with that power. Which is, ironically, why you're a racist was such a good accusation to make, because it did two things. One, it alleged that a violation, an aggression had been made. You're a racist, implying that you did something wrong. You have committed a moral ill. And it also implies victimhood, as of course you need to be racist against someone. So now you have created an aggressor and a victim class at the same time. And back when society was full of naive, blue-eyed monkeys, they saw victim, aggressor, side with victim, against aggressor. And this allowed the left to do pretty much literally anything they wanted to anyone they wanted for a good, 5-6 years, with a simple allegation alone was enough to ruin not only lives, but potentially corporations and families. And only very slowly did we begin to redefine these words and wield the stick for ourselves. And even then, the redefinition of words too, of course, only works so long as you actually have the stick. Only when you are in possession of the majority does your redefinition work. Because you can say for all the world you want, go, actually, I found an example of this that I prepared before we started, but that I got waffled off on a completely different tangent.
I have lost.
What is it? It's not that. Where is it? Ah, there we go, I think. Well, it's somewhere. It's here somewhere. Unless I managed to lose it. I probably did. Ah, yes, this. Here we go. Every game you will ever play from now on will be like this. Yes. Unironically, yes. So, this, of course, was the redefinition of beauty standards, where back in the day, you had the beauty standard of video games was things like this. Heavy Metal. Fuck. Good game, by the way. I don't know if I'll necessarily define it quite as such, but solid video game, where this was the beauty standard, obviously so, and yet they managed to redefine it to the point where it became this. And this is only possible with the assent of the majority of the stick. Only with the stick can you go from this to this. And it requires a tremendous amount of good old-fashioned brainwashing along the way as well. Right, so that then is the stick. The stick is most people, and affecting most people to be used in a way that benefits us is how we try to use the stick, of course. But again, we can only do that with the stick's assent. That's the thing. We have to convince the stick that what we are doing is the good thing. Otherwise, the stick will rebel against us. In fact, the stick may very well see us as the aggressor, as demonstrated by the left. How did the left lose control of the stick? Well, by overusing it. By cancelling people for the dumbest thing. For the perfect example again. The dude with the sexy t-shirt who landed a robot on an asteroid. When you do that sort of thing in front of the majority, they will look at it and go, well, this is obviously unjust. This is obviously not correct. And he will lose a part of the stick. When Anita Sarkeesian says ridiculous stuff like Batman's cape is there to cover his ass because of patriarchy, you lose a bit of the stick. Until eventually you become the aggressor, as I coined it in the video, the malicious party. And at that point, the stick is handed entirely over to your opposition because you're now the bad guy. The opposition are the good guys, they are the victims, and since the stick always gravitates towards the victim, it naturally gets a control of the stick. This also comes back to the wider idea of Western populaces, as we are a very charitable civilization, far more so than virtually any other, and so the moment we see an underdog, a victim, we tend to take their side almost regardless of consequences or circumstances. So, that is a general definition of the stick. Thus, if we wish to exercise the woke cancer, we must be able to retain control of the stick, and that's where the tricky part comes in as well. You may wish to simply exercise the cancer by burning everything. The game studio's woke, destroy them all. Okay, but now we become the aggressor. Now, we can use the stick up until a certain point. We can fire people, for example, right now, like the left once did. We can now do that to games developers who are woke. We can say, you made a gay-ass game, I want your job. Which is exactly what we cried out against back in the old day. No, you can't take away somebody's livelihood for just doing this thing. That's ridiculous. Well, now we've come around to the point where we've been able to justify that to the masses, but it will only be possible to be justified up until a certain point, just like with the left being able to do it to us for a certain while. And it's very important to remain aware of that point and sensitive to it. Murky Product. People need to remember that a differing opinion is not a personal attack or a betrayal. That also is true, but to be fair, this is made very difficult by the I forgot the term now. The relationship between content creator and audience. Everything is seen as a slight, and that is again just part of our little lizard brains, and the fact that text hardly communicates intent particularly well. Settler Rex, $20. Thank you very much, sir. 1,000 pardons, Lord Arch, but the stick and only stick means we allow them with no tolerance. We don't need to yell at them, but we won't buy, and our apathy will startle them. We don't need KCD2, we'll move on. That too is actually correct. The we don't need to yell at them part is the important thing there. Take, to tear away from the KCD2 example, take Baldur's Gate 3, right? I'm aware the image is off, but I wanted to... Oh, actually, that's kind of decent, actually. Take Baldur's Gate 3 is another brilliant example of this. Baldur's Gate 3 is a woke-ass game. It is a woke-ass game. It is way more woke than KCD2 is. From quest structure to later acts design to the companion characters to the way that it uses attractiveness, where all of the male characters are very traditionally female attractive. You know, you've got the wizard guy with a little shade there, who's very soft-spoken, to Astorian. This guy is the purest creation of female fetishism ever. Meanwhile, the female characters are an ugly-looking Githyanki. You've got Shadowheart, who is just in that zone of like, well, you know, she's not ugly, but she's not attractive either, in the way that you can make a character attractive in a video game. She'd be an entirely fine woman in real life, but compared to the fact that this is, again, a video game, and you can have other characters with literally perfect hair and faces and so on, etc., yeah, she was obviously sexualized down from what she was probably intended to be. Baldur's Gate 3 is woke as fuck. However, it is also an enormously successful game, with enormously successful marketing. And so, you should not attack it simply because attacking it will make you look like a tard. It'll make you look like the guy who is doing the malicious aggressing. Same with KCD2. Now, that does not mean that you need to purchase the game either, that's the thing. KCD2 is the best example of this. Now, Baldur's Gate 3 is a far easier piece of ground for the left to cover than us. We simply just defend it now as a piece of, oh, it was just a good RPG, and we ignored the woke parts, right? Whereas KCD2 is a 98% our side type of game. It is a very Christian game with 99.9% white characters. It has one woman who kinda sorta fights in like one scenario, but otherwise is simply a spy or an infiltrator, etc. Although most of the female characters are a little bit strong female character-y, granted, but you get my drift. We don't need to do anything to claim KCD2. You don't even need to buy it. All you need do is not attack it, and it will already be far more firmly entrenched in our camp than the opposition's camp. Although, I will point out, I do believe part of the reason why KCD2 is a more diverse game is precisely because our opposition love-bombed it. Stuff like this, where the gaming media goes up to Daniel Vavra and goes, hey, you did really well with that game. That was a super game. Wow, you're so good. You're so talented. You're so amazing. We're going to give you all the positive coverage from now on. It'll naturally make him more inclined to listen to their points of views. It'll naturally make him more inclined to give them the benefit of the doubt and grant them their requests. Again, this is simple human nature. This is something that the left has that we do not. The ability to manipulate the people in power with no scruples whatsoever. Again, the example I brought up in the video of Feminist 40k, they had the balls to go directly to GW themselves and be like, hey, we're such fans and we're the good people, we're the feminists, could we use your logo for our own merchandise? And GW said yes. That is the power of basically being a seductive doe-eyed bitch. Of gold diggingness, in essence. Something that the right is very, very bad at. And for better or worse, it has its own advantages as well. Alex Adamson, by the way, has Lumi told you about having a certain potential guest on? That was brought up the last LumiCast. If not, go talk to her after this. She has not said anything. Lum Lum has been a bad Lum Lum. Cindus. We are going to reclaim a lot of IPs by the mere fact that it's becoming unprofitable for them to continue the way they are going. The corpos fear being the next Concord. Yes. Now, that also again is the difference. The left may claim an IP by love-bombing it, by infiltrating it from the inside, by becoming forum moderators, by taking positions of power within it. Whereas we claim IPs via the stick. We, at the moment, rely near exclusively on the stick to get companies to turn our way, with the threat of cancellation. But, again, bear you in mind, cancelled? Oh, kind of. Cornered rats do tend to bite. There is a danger with using the stick as well, and that is that if we become unreasonable with its application, if, wild scenario here. Let's say that Disney decides to mend their ways, right? And they release a TV show that is out and out based. Like, it is the most, dark, sexy, violent Star Wars you've ever seen. Like, it's literally Band of Brothers Star Wars, right? Everything we ever wanted. And if we then look at it, and there's, one gay character in there with one gay kiss and go, nope, stick. The Disney will then look at us and go, we gave you everything you wanted. You still rejected us. Okay, well, I guess we're going to have to go back to the other people again then. Because that is what the Acolyte was, okay? The Acolyte was exactly that. The Acolyte was 99% of everything the left desired in a TV show. 99% of it. All strong female characters, like one white guy in the entire fucking cast who was a sacrificial pawn, right? Or a villain, right? And yet the left was unable to reward it. Being unable to reward something is just as devastating to a movement as being unable to punish the things you don't like. Because, well, if you can't make something succeed, and you can only make it fail, the company doesn't have a good reason to side with you. Now, we have proven that we can make things succeed multiple times because we do have the majority. By simply not attacking something, we can claim credit for it succeeding. By simply not condemning something, we can say, look, I held the stick, but I did not apply the stick. And that in and of itself is reward. Again, our ability to directly monetarily reward a company is largely insignificant due to the simple lack of numbers. But our ability to wield the stick, or withhold the usage of the stick, becomes its own reward. Noel Farias. Kibbs finally reached Musa in his last stream. Found him out of place, but not really offensive or obnoxious. Thoughts? I don't have any, because I don't know yet. I haven't met him either. John Braithwaite. I agree with you on this topic, Arch. I also agree with you that we are the 1% versus the other 1%. But you are talking strategy within earshot of the fired up 98 of your audience. It is time to organize and wield the stick. I agree. See, that's the thing. I understand that what I'm doing here is not going to be popular. Trust me, I know. I see the dislikes. I see people unsubscribing for it. I get it. I understand this is not a popular position. However, I am 100% sure I'm correct on this. The left ruined itself in a measly 10 years because it abused the stick. And we've all said this again and again, right? The left is in ruins now because it abused its power, because it became malicious, mean, vindictive, aggressive, because it started going after people for lesser and lesser reasons, for the tiniest and pettiest of things. That is literally what the Gamers Are Over article was. It was, what? You disagree with our ability to use our privilege to fuck people and give them good reviews? You scum! And such an aggressive assault too. You're dumb, you're misogynist, you're bigoted. It stunned most of us, the sheer vitriol with which it was delivered. But that then eventually meant that the accusation of "you're racist" was no longer a accusation of you having done anything wrong and they being the victim. Instead, it arrived at the point where if somebody shouted "you're racist," the assumption was that they were the aggressor and you were the victim. If we are not aware of this fact, if we do not understand that using the stick maliciously, overtly, and too often will lose us the stick, then we are simply doomed to do what the left did. It's inevitable at that point. The moment we are perceived as the malicious party by the majority, we're done. We're screwed. It's exactly the same path the left took, which is why I am getting out ahead of that now, 4 years probably before this actually becomes a problem, mind you, to lay the groundwork for it. Understanding that it is not going to be a popular position, but it is a necessary one. This is why I started talking about gatekeeping long before that became popular. In fact, I made it popular, and I'm going to do the same thing now. Check in on me in 3 to 4 years, and we'll see where everybody else is, because I'm pretty sure I'm simply just ahead of the curve on this. Renault's Arch has a point that we will never win by giving all the ground to the woke. Not all gay or diverse characters are woke. Who draws the line? Because labeling all as woke is R-worded. Arch has a point. See, there's another one. Like, okay, where is the line? That, of course, is by far the most difficult question to answer. Where is the line? It is impossible to define firmly and immediately. Let's see here. So, I've got a couple other examples from my Twitter timeline. I should start using Twitter more, because it's a wonderful source of examples like this. So, this is a clip, which I can't play on YouTube, of course, from a TV show called Southland. Now, Southland is a great television show. It's an amazing television show that I heartily recommend. It's massively underappreciated as well. It's fantastic, trust me. So, you've got a kid here who calls the cops on his mum because she beat him with a belt because he was skipping class. And when she confronted him with it, he lied to her face. So he's like, okay, you little bitch, beat his ass with it. That's all she did, just beat him with the belt. The big cop then pulls the kid aside and asks the question, like, does she beat you often? No, this is the first time. Did she use her fists? No. Does she hit you with any other objects other than the belt? No, just the belt. Where did she hit you? Right on the butt, etc. That's all. And the cop then sides with the mum and goes, if you call your police on the mum again, I will come down here and beat the shit out of you myself. This cop is one of the coolest characters in the entire show. This guy here, great fucking character. Excellent guy. With a really solid story as well. Love him to death. He is gay. This is revealed, I think, in like season 3 or something. It's way into the show. And the show doesn't make a big deal about it. It comes up naturally, in essence, because the character is kind of forced to reveal it. And he reveals it like it's no big deal. Why? Because it is no big deal. His sexuality does not define him. He is not cool because he's gay. He's not whinging about being gay. He's not using that as an excuse or as a shield. Him being gay is merely who he likes to pork. That's it. That is the representation that I want. A character that simply exists, that is accepted into society as simply that guy, and his sexuality is largely irrelevant, frankly. Is this a woke character for just being gay? I would say absolutely not. In fact, I would say that if you were going to ask for representation, this would be how you do it. Meanwhile, if you see something like this, for example, is this woke? Yes. Yes, this is woke. Painfully so. Now, not always is it going to be quite so clear-cut, mind you. That's the problem. And that's where we need to be wary of the masses. KCD2, again, to bring up that example. Is KCD2 woke? Alright, does it have woke elements? Definitely. Should those woke elements be called out when appropriate? Absolutely. When you have an opportunity to do so. But should it be lambasted as just woke, woke, woke? Well, no. For tactical reasons, it should not, for the simple fact that 96% of everybody else likes it, which means that our 1% is yet again arguing with the 96, which makes us come across as the bad guys. Alright. So wallet voting is working pretty well. It is, so long as we have everybody was wallets. This is socialism. Everyone's wallets. Vote together. That's how we achieve progress. Anyways, now that I've laid enough of the groundwork, I want to actually get to some of these. I like this one too. I see Arch is still LARPing as a right-winger instead of admitting he's a 2000s liberal. I think I've always been a 2000s liberal. Yeah, I think that's largely my position, with, of course, now the understanding that the left is nowhere near as benevolent a force as they made themselves out to be. Liberalism obviously requires large-scale reform, and a severe tightening of its liberal leanings, in essence. But that's why I always also say right-winger with quotation marks, because I don't really identify as right-wing. It is simply just a term that we are using today to differentiate, more correctly, ourselves from the left. Because, if we're stuck in the very, very narrow left versus right paradigm, those are the terms we use. In reality, we should be using something far broader. But again, the problem there is that liberal doesn't actually describe me anymore, either. Because at this point, I am all for government intervention on many, many, many things. Using the government to actively purge DEI, for example, is something I am all for now. Many of my opinions have deviated significantly from liberalism, even though the 2000s, that is my goal. I want to go to the 2000s, because everything was fucking better then. The problem is, of course, you gotta go to the 2000s without then the follow-on slide into left-wing progressivism that ruined it all. So the question is, what values of the 2000s can we adopt and utilize today, and what values will need to be cauterized to stop any further falls? Remember how the culture war started? You give them minutes, they take a mile. You don't let up when your enemy is reeling, you press the advantage. That is what the Games of the Dead article writer thought as well. Exactly. So this goes back to the stick. That they were in a position of absolute political power and could simply crush the enemy, but in doing so they appeared unhinged and ridiculous. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing twice and expecting different outcomes. So, I also want to make clear here, I am not bringing up these to dunk on them. That is not the purpose of this. This is simply to give me the examples, and then I can, have my brain spin off from it. As this is exactly that. You don't give up when your enemy is reeling, you press the advantage. That is what the Gamers Were Dead article was. It was the left saying, we have the absolute moral authority. We are the ones who decide what is right and what is wrong. And if you disagree, we will simply crush you. As the majority then, and us as well, looked at that and thought, that's not right, that's cruel, the stick shifted. Again, the stick. Always be wary of where the stick goes. So, I feel a significant difference between people getting fired due to political persecution and people getting fired simply because no one wants to buy their politically infested games. So this too is political persecution. Voluntary disassociation only brought about by the majority choosing to do so. Exactly. And the majority did so because we acted upon them in the same way the left once acted upon the companies to create those infested games. This is the same thing in result. Now, we argue, of course, that when we wield the weapon of cancel culture, which we very much so are, against companies largely rather than individuals, which is a crucial distinction to make, we are doing so for the correct reasons. You have aggressed upon me, therefore I am now going to aggress upon you. It's a perfectly reasonable thing to do. You ruined my childhood, I'm going to take your job away. Entirely fine. But we do need to understand that that is, of course, the same thing that they did to us. But our reasons are better, and we have convinced the majority that our reasons are better. However, that does not mean that we can't arrive at a point where we are attacking an unjustified target, again, like KCD2. If we do that, then we are in the exact same position as the left, and they will see us taking somebody's job away through cancel culture and go, that's not right, and we'll go, but I thought you agreed with us. No, they never did, not to that extent anyways. The sinews of war is gold. Give the gold to the enemy, lose the war. Surrendering a mine completely to the enemy loses the war, even more so than a mine is 90% ours to begin with. That, of course, is the KCD2 argument again. KCD2 is already 90% our game, and ceding 10% of that to the enemy so that we may retain 90% is absolutely worth it. At the very least, it is far more worth it than ceding 100%. And then looking at the next KCD2, who might be even woker, and might still sell great because of the name of its predecessor. Holding 90% of a position is better than abandoning all of it for no gain. Let's see. I hear what you say, Arch, but I don't want to give money to these companies or to say that I claim this game, even though I know it has stuff in it that I am not going to like or enjoy. And that too is entirely fine. You don't need to put money into it. Again, KCD2 is, at the very beginning, a 98% hour style game. We need do nothing to take it over, which is our advantage. We now own the stick, and sour, help me. And so our ability to use it or not use it is all. We don't even need to hand them the stick or reward them. Merely not striking them with it is sufficient, which is very, very nice. Now, let me keep up with these as well. Alex Nunn. Hey Arch, what do you think if the Wayward Realms, the AI game master is going to have, seems like what you say the future of gaming will be? The Wayward Realms. Is that the, is that Morrowind thing? It is, isn't it? Is it? Yeah, I think it is. So I've been keeping an eye on this, and I'm very excited for it. It's going to have an AI game master, is it? Interesting. That's the first thing I've heard of it. But I'm really excited for it, because I do think that working AI into these games is going to be absolutely crucial for the long term. That is going to be the next big iteration. I tell you, I'll make this prophetic declaration right now. The next big thing won't be like graphics, because that was the big thing, right? Graphics, better game. The next thing is going to be AI. The next thing is going to have, is your AI better? Is your game AI better? Like Bethesda's AI engine. That is going to be the next thing. Not a graphics engine, but an AI engine. And then all of the various companies are going to compete over making the best AI engine with the most immersive experience and the best ability to generate quests, responses, companion chatter, etc., etc. That's going to be the next big thing, in my opinion. Blaystone, don't forget Streamlabs, Barchley, Curry. I shall endeavor to do so. Hopefully. Let me just point that down to the Curry fund as well. Whilst I'm here. Right, I should do the Streamlabs ones as well. Oh, I see there's lots of rumble as well, goddammit. I was hoping for this to be a slightly more free-form discussion. Blaystone, I mostly think you're correct, Barchley. Just screwed up your presentation. Problem is, you appear to many as advocating amnesty instead of justice. Well, KCD2 is woke and mere writing it best, claiming should be reserved for worthwhile battles and properties. Vice versa, lots seem emotionally charged and forget that feels before reals is why we won in the first place. But now just want revenge. Revenge will not solve anything long term, only justice will. Curry fund for both because late and Californian. Well, there's the thing. When you say justice is an emotional term. Justice is revenge. Justice is, they hurt me, I'm gonna hurt them back. And in many cases, that is justified. Indeed, that is one of the reasons why we are now wielding the stick, because we do have a justified cause for revenge. However, that revenge will eventually run out. And we need to start sooner rather than later, because we don't necessarily have that many opportunities to fuck up before we lose control of the stick. Bear you in mind, again, the left lost virtually all of its power within only 10 years. If we start fucking up now, then in just 10 years' time, so like two presidential elections, we will have lost all of the goodwill we've built up. Not only that, we will arrive at the point where our opposition is yet again justified to cancel us. Which is why we need to get out ahead of this as early as possible, which is again why I'm taking up this unpopular position now, rather than when the writing is on the wall and we're going, oh my god, why is everything on fire? Well, actually... So if I were to Archplay, we are literally going to repeat the past since we've been here before, where the woke subverted and people left. You're literally just opening the door back up. Well, that is the past. That is the past. If we simply start doing what the left did, we will repeat what the left did. If we wish to... See, the left excluded everyone. Full purity spiral. If you're not 100% with me, you're against me. I'm going to lock you out. I'm going to cancel you. I'm going to throw you out. You are not a part of my club. How did that work for them? And why should we assume that it will work better for us? I don't think it will. So if I was also Arch, in case that he isn't supposed to have player choice, you're playing a gay named Henry, who lived in Bohemia that didn't have black people in it at the time. However, I said it was the first game. He did, but it is going to have player choice. Henry is not a real character. You are not playing a walking simulator. You are playing a role-playing game. You can make choices and decisions, even if they are not, you know, as large as I would prefer them to be. So I don't think it's 100% like historical simulation game by any stretch of the imagination. Nor do I think that was the intent either. Nor do I think I would like that game if it was. Another Kiwi bastard. YouTube, you piece of shit cunt. I swear YouTube is getting slightly worse every single solitary day, which upsets me greatly. There we go. The big companies need to fail. They are too corrupt. Support indie devs that make good stuff, but as much as claiming things is a valid tactic, we need to not reward bad actors for making slop. Correct. But there's also the thing, is Warhorse Studios a major company now? Because Warhorse Studios only made, like, 2 games. Like, they're not independent, because obviously they're bought up by Embracer Group, but...
I have lost.
I think they fit into the mold of the company we wish to build up as alternative companies. Like, it's not a Disney or something. And I definitely don't think that the rot within Warhorse, if there even is one, is large enough to the point where we can't effectively exercise it and replace it with something better. I hope. Murky product. Absolute power does not always stay absolute. Being correct is not enough. If you can't convince the world that you are correct, it's cultural politics. Yes, very well put. Again, cultural power is political power. Political power is cultural power. And these are only granted so long as you have the majority on your side. This has been true literally throughout human history. Even like oppressive regimes like feudalism, for example, could only continue to exist so long as it convinced the majority that it was for the best. The moment the majority were convinced that their betters were telling them to just eat cake when they were starving, it all fell apart. Frankly, I don't think that oppressive regimes can truly exist. Not truly. Oppressive regimes can only exist so long as they convince the people that they are oppressing them for good reasons. That's the thing. If you are simply oppressing them for shits and giggles, people will not always revolt. If, however, you can say, oh, no, I'm not taking your freedom away. Shit. I'm giving you safety. Now there you've got a basis for an oppressive regime that people won't rebel against. Sentinel Rex, normies don't play KCD2, and we are the majority in the entertainment spaces. That is why their shit doesn't sell. KCD2 ain't worth claiming. Oh no, normies absolutely play KCD2. They absolutely do. Let's see here. Let's see what the charts are right now. There we go. Right. So, this here. All-time peak. 250,000 people. KCD2 absolutely is played by the normies. Like, this is too many people to just be our 1%ers. And even if it was only truly our 1%ers, if it was us playing Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, it shouldn't have a 92% positive review rate, of course, because then it would be woke, right? If we, the educated elites in essence, I know that sounds bloviating, but it is true, were the only ones playing Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, we would be far more skeptical towards it, and this review score would not be true. Neither, I think, let's see if I can find it now. You know how many games have a little, let me see if I can find it, achievement page. Where's the achievement page? How do you even see your achievement pages? Let's see. All right. New Horizon. Why can't I see the percentage of this? God damn it. I want to see the percentages. There we go. Gutenberg region. Okay, so 52.8% of players have gotten to Gutenberg. Now, that alone is impressive as hell. 52% of people have gotten to the second region in that game, which takes like 30 hours. That is huge player retention, but that still means that a little under half of people who played the KCD2 didn't even get to the second portion of the video game. Those are the normies, the people who play casually, who play maybe 10 hours and never encounter even a single speck of wokeism in the game. Not to mention as well the sheer positive word of mouth that a game like that will inevitably generate. Alex Anderson, so the stick is to be used on highly valued targets, not every target, lest it be worn down and its power diminish. Makes sense. Yep, that is a good way to put it as well. The stick must be applied judiciously against targets worthy of its attention, though we can get away with targeting. Sentinel Rex, the normies that bought Baldur's Gate 3 quickly dropped it after they found out the style of gameplay it had. Turn-based games and RTS games are normie repellent. To a degree, but I mean, Baldur's Gate 3, I imagine that has... Oh yeah, look at that. Look at fucking that. Look at that. 875,000 people. That is an incredible amount of people. That is an enormous amount of people. Most of those are probably normies. I'd be surprised if more than like 30% of them even made it to like Act 2. Because the normies have a wider palette than you might think. It's not all the case that it do, because the normies definition is far broader than I think we necessarily think. Let's see here, because you can also see that, of course, in like the drop-off, right? Where you have a massive number of players who play it for a handful of days, and then they start going away because they're casuals, they're normies. They pick up the game because they hear like, oh, this game is the best thing ever, this game is amazing. And they pick it up and they play it for like 10 hours, maybe 10, 12 hours, and then they just forget about it and move on. That is the normie spiral right there. Whereas us, like, we're probably more like this part. This is probably more representative of the us side. So out of all of this, we're like 100,000 out of 900,000. So once more, the 1% arguing over the 98 is reflected in this. Shot Red 555. This black man, see what you're doing is admirable. Well, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Cinder's art is correct. We must not purity spiral. That is another thing as well. The purity spiral. So, it is easy to be overtaken with righteous zeal, is it not? When you think that you are winning, you want to keep winning. And I think this is kind of what's happening with America right now to a degree as well, where Trump is going a little bit stir-crazy with all the various declarations that he's making, which is antagonizing a lot of otherwise relatively friendly powers and pushing them in unfortunate directions. Not that those powers aren't plenty guilty of the directions they've chosen themselves, but once you start eating your own side, you very rarely stop. because it becomes beneficial to start eating your own side. Now, in some cases, this is necessary, with the whole Melanie Mac thing, for example. To quote Raging Golden Eagle again, I don't consider this infighting because these people were never on our sides to begin with. There is elements of eating one's own that can be beneficial. Like, what's that dude? Matt Walsh? Is that the guy I'm thinking about? Is Matt Walsh the guy I'm thinking about? Yes, Matt Walsh is the guy I'm thinking about, right. Yes. So, Matt Walsh has a lot of very good things to contribute to our greater movement. He has done some good things. He has created some good things. However, he should be brutally beaten whenever he opens his mouth on gaming, and anime for that matter. And he should be eaten by our own side whenever he tries to whittle into these areas that he has no expertise in, no interest in, no love for, and not even the tactical acumen required to make a positive argument for his own side in those realms. But again, everything in moderation. Anything taken to the extreme is almost certainly going to be destructive for everybody involved. Spiky, 1996 on Streamlabs, thank you very much. Welcome back, Arch. Here is a manga recommendation that suits your taste for getting immediately back to work. Kyuketsuki-san wa Chitoraretai. I think I saw that one, actually, yes. Where a vampire wants other people to drink her boyfriend's blood because it turns her on. That was a strange concept. Not the strangest concept I encountered on my manga journey during my vacation. That was the one where a woman decided that she wanted to be a seedbed for plants and monsters. That was weirder. That was significantly weirder, but still.
Heresy's the question.
So the fire water. Another thing is you can't reclaim stolen ground. Oh, well. The woke with the government, which has HR doing everything, and mandating HR, you'll be fired long before you claim. You're better off building new stuff. Potentially. But, as I think we're already beginning to see with entertainment, you can reclaim lost ground. These HR managers are themselves employed at the company's discretion and can be purged. Is it difficult? Absolutely. But I don't think we should give up on centers of power so easily. Like, Disney, for better or worse, is a center of enormous cultural power, which is why China respected it so much and why it leapt to action so quickly once it realized that it was weak. But it would still, ideally, be preferable to get Disney back to making good stuff than burning it to the ground. Whether that's even possible is an entirely different question. In essence, we must not be afraid to burn Disney to the ground. If Disney dies, he dies. Simple as. If he dies, he dies. But if Disney decides to come up to us and go, hello, fellow kids, and makes another Hercules, I'll take it. Counterstructure. That's an argument of trajectory. With KCD2, the line is going woke. Potentially, yes. And then, of course, also is the thing. Let us assume that you are correct, right? KCD2 is 5% woke, over like 1% woke in the first game, for example. And the next game will be 10% woke. All right. Then we cancel the next game. Or if that isn't woke enough to be cancelled, if that also has like 92% public approval rating, then we cancel the next game. This is not really a zero-sum game, where if we allow in a tiny speck, everything goes completely awry. It is instead a better example of what we are willing to accept. Because if we assume, 10% woke to be a gay romance, for example, then Mass Effect is gay. But if it's good, we might still be able to simply just ignore it, play the game, enjoy it, and still have it be our cultural victory. And then, once it steps over that invisible line and becomes too woke, then we can wield the stick against it. And there was even a good argument for wielding the stick against KCD2 up until the game came out. The overwhelming majority of people, and this is where the zealotry comes in, a lot of people were primed to dislike the game, partially due to YouTuber coverage, myself included, and the actions of Daniel Vavra, who lied his fucking ass off, make no mistake about it. If he did that, and the game came out, and it was woke, we would have cancelled it. Like that. It would have been done. Not a problem whatsoever. People were already primed to dislike the game. I was primed to dislike the game. And the 2-hour-long tutorial section certainly didn't make me warm towards it much either. But it turned out to be a good game. And that should then be the sign to back off and go, okay, we can't cancel this one. Now would be a good time to insert an ad. Would it? Oh. Well, I just did anyways.
You ignorant slut.
However, if, again, KCD3 comes out and it is too woke, we should not hesitate to cancel it then either. I am not arguing that Warhol should be given some sort of special protection. I am simply arguing that cancelling KCD2 isn't going to happen. If 3 comes out, however, well, we'll revisit it. Father Jack the Enlightened, Arch, we have to give the money to save the IP. Bad actors, thank you, now we can destroy it again. Arch later, why are they doing this again? Well, because, that's the thing. If we give them money for a game that is 5% woke, then they make a game that is 10 to 25% woke, and withhold money, the message they receive is that doing the previous thing was okay, but doing the next thing was not okay. And at the end of the day, if we cannot cancel KCD 2, but we can cancel KCD 3, then that is the best we can get. Because if you can't do a thing, you can't do a thing. Even if we were to assume that KCD 2 was too woke, by purpose, if we cannot cancel it, and we can't at the moment, trying would only weaken our position. It would benefit us not at all. To take the Vorshian position again, the principle is to win as an anti-wokist. Principled failure is worth dog shit. Again, I'm not quite there just yet, but there is a truth to the argument. If you cannot cancel a game and you will only weaken your position by trying, don't. Simply ignore it. Don't purchase it. Don't talk about it. Just simply let it pass on by. Now, as a content creator, that's not really an option because my entire job is, making content about stuff. But for the average person, that is an absolutely valid stance to take. Hell, I'm partially taking it on a lot of Games Workshop stuff that's coming up. I haven't bought a Black Library book in years, even though I'm sure I would like some of the stuff they're releasing now, but ugh. Anthony, it has gotten to the point when someone calls me racist, I say thank you. Exactly. That is the reversal of it. Remember also, looking at chat, I feel this is a division much like the non-religious far right and the Christian far right. People who are still willing to compromise and people who want total domination and nothing else. Ah, yes. But the problem there is, of course, as well, if we could have total domination, I'd be all for it. I've said the same thing many times. Drive them before you, in essence. Absolute cultural imperialism. However, we can only achieve that if we are careful. We can only achieve that with the blessing of the majority. The left was so close to that absolute cultural dominance. It was within their grasp, and then they overreached, and they went crazy. If you want total victory, you have to play tactically. You have to play the game. If you simply charge at your enemy and beat him bloody in front of 1,000 spectators, they're probably going to boo you. If, however, you wait until he's going home from the bar drunk and then ambushing him in an alley, well, different scenario. See, that's the thing. I, too, want total domination. but I actually want it in the end, rather than squandering it by getting too eager today. What is the saying? When you are ahead, get further ahead, instead of squandering what lead you might have in a mad gamble. Father Jack the Enlightened. I have had this argument with Yellow Flash before about Disney and Hollywood. You guys are their safety net by supporting them when something good comes. And again, though, if we simply cancel everything that is good as well, though, then we don't have a positive argument. That's the thing. And you do need to have a positive argument. Look at Trump. What is Trump's positive argument? Is it that everything is shit in America and will always be shit? No. It's things are shit, I'm gonna make it better. That is our argument. When we look at a terrible piece of Star Wars entertainment and hammer it, that isn't us going, everything is shit, everything is always going to be shit forever and ever. It's, this is garbage, here's how to make it better, do make it better. And again, if Disney can be salvaged is questionable at this point. But you do need to present a way out, a way forward, a way for the normies as well to cling on to and go, wait, I can have my childhood back? Yes, but you're going to have to work for it. The Wolf Marshal, chat has no concept of strategy. We must be pragmatic or we will be our own worst enemy. No dev fund. Correct. Darkness and Act. The stick must be held with an iron grip and aimed with a strategic eye. Wild bonking will be worse for us. Correct again. Jesse Jinx. I'm mostly with you on this, Arch. The stick is to be used carefully. If Mass Effect series was released today, it would likely be considered woke because the intent would likely be political and ideological, but it wasn't, and therefore was not. Well, it'll be very, very interesting to see the next Mass Effect, won't it? Because Andromeda failed not because it was woke, although it was, it failed because it was garbage. And I'm not sure BioWare has it in them to make another technically competent game,
I have
but it will be very interesting to see where they go with it. Leo S on Streamlabs for $20. Thank you very much, sir. Please run your other KCD comment video at 1320. I want to see how your opinion has changed. I'm glad to see you've embraced this type of stream. Are other KCD comment? Are there no? Alright. Which one? Which one? What? The blah. Let me see. The minefield one?
I have lost.
Let's see. Let's see. I may very well be in for a gotcha moment there too, because honestly, my opinions on this is evolving exactly right now. Like, I've only been thinking about this for like a... Yeah, the cube, I didn't know. The fact that ad blockers don't work anymore upsets me greatly.
Against the horror.
Let's see, 1320 was it? Let's see, 1320. In it, and it is a very high quality adventure, which is why everyone has such a positive opinion of it. It started out great, and as it also enjoyed a lengthy early release schedule, nobody knew about any of the woke stuff until they had already formed a thoroughly positive impression from the early access release. But then, as most agree as well, as the game went on, the quality began to drop, alongside the increasing diversity in the game. Alright, so that's Baldur's Gate 3, I'm presuming, almost certainly. And yes, Baldur's Gate 3 benefited very much so from a long early release period. Very much so. I remember even getting flack for saying that they were taking the piss of charging full price for people to be beta testing them, and I got pushback for that. So people had already built up their positive impression, and by the time the woke stuff came along, they'd already been so heavily invested in the game in a positive way that they would naturally defend it. In fact, I damn near guarantee you that if KCD 2 had come out with with just like the first region and no mention of the later regions and no mention of the Hans romance, I think again people would have been very positively inclined towards it too. I very much so suspect so. Certified to Archley, we are the stick, Utah. The stick is the core audience. The stick is not the core audience. And when companies move away from their core, they lose the audience since they destroy whatever made it good in the first place. No. The core audience is not the stick. The core audience is what builds an audience. You can see this with the Total War series. The Total War series started with a small core audience from like Shogun. And that core audience then brought in new people by saying, hey, this is really good. And then it became bigger and brought in more people until you came to Rome 1, which was like the big like point where people started coming in en masse. The core is what attracts others. Without the core, you don't have anything to attract, because all of those other people are only there because the core was there. The moment you lose the core, you lose all of those other people as well. And even then is only up until a certain extent of success, because those other people will hang around for a very long time, as we saw with Star Wars, where it only began like diminishing after the Acolyte. The core was completely gone from the Acolyte. There was no longer any sort of magnetic center to keep the normie drifters around, and so they, too, dispersed. So with the audience gone, no one will buy the game, and it won't be spread with word of mouth, and it will just fail. The devs will lose their jobs for chasing the phantom wider audience. Again, yeah. And that is, again, the wider audience. Chasing the wider audience, that is the stick. If the core was still there, they might very well reach that wider audience, as happened with Total War. So on the Lich, Arch, motherly nursing the L, defending Valvara's switcheroo. We're not cancelling anyone, the industry doesn't listen to us, they just see light going down after the ideologies ruin everything. Well, how do they see lion going down? Like, the normies aren't going to react negatively to this. The normies weren't reacting negatively to this. It was only when a cultural movement was created to make the pushback that lines started going down. Especially if we take into like the stone toss idea of gaming always having been subverted to some extent. Clearly, nobody objected to that. It was absolutely a cultural movement being created and built up over time against the political parts of it that then made the counter structure. This is the consequences of their actions, but there is somebody applying those consequences. It isn't, you know, magic and fairy dust. A lot of work has been put into creating this cultural counter movement, just like a lot of a lot of work was put into creating the left-wing cultural movement to begin with. Elsa Sorano for 20 Canadian. My prediction is that we will begin plugging human brains into computers and forcing them to run games for people to play. I need to invest in the Arch brain plug-in device and bounty to capture him for the machine. I too wish to be digitalized before my death. But it needs to be like the actual brain, though. It can't just be a digital scan, because then just a floppy disk version of me will be alive. No, I want my brain in a jar, capable of playing video games. That's what I want. Sujad, I've been tooling around with a proper AI-powered game. AI tools are incredible resource intensive, far more than I thought, and I have a beastly game computer. Free AI models have daily limits. They do. It's very, very resource intensive, which is again why you're probably going to have another hardware rush, because hardware has been halted primarily for two reasons. One, simple, physical restraints in that you can only transfer so much power over conduits so and so quickly, and two, the general stagnation of graphics, which hasn't really caused that much of a hardware growth either. Danny Boy, if I'm giving Barbara $60, it's just as much rewarding the woke element as it's rewarding the non-woke elements. I want to reward things I want to see gone. Well, again, then you need to define the woke. Is the woke a black guy in the game? Is the woke a gay scene? Because at that point, again, you're locking yourself out of a lot of other games. And that in and of itself, too, is fine, but there is absolutely a way to reward the 98% of good stuff and not have the 2% ruin it. Like, we do have to think of this as well. Like, you can't go the full-on Anita Sarkeesian route where everything is racist, everything is sexist, everything is patriarchal, and you've got to call it all out, because then you'll be unable to enjoy anything. Hell, I'm already beginning to feel the effects of that now, when I see a black character in a game and go like, why are you here? You know? We gotta be careful that we don't diminish our own ability to enjoy the entertainment that we fought so hard to protect. I mean, that would be the ultimate irony, wouldn't it? We finally save video games, and we have ruined our ability to actually enjoy video games. So John, the game is called Formamorph. It's a fetish game, yeah, but you can create your own world, monster items, etc. just for the experience. Give it a try. Formamorph. By Fiery Lion. Let's see. Damn, that does indeed look rather fetishistic. Okay. I'll give it a quick little whirl later on, see what it's like. Leo S on Streamlabs again. Arch, it was a lot of you disagree with me on KSD2. Let's talk about that. 1320. I get it if you don't want to do it a second time though. Oh, that one video. Okay. I misunderstood the video then. Novel Fenius, I've said to some people that I worry about the cry wolf effect. If normies are rolling their eyes and saying, is that it? I don't think that'll gain you any ground in the culture war. Yeah, no, absolutely. Crying wolf is another excellent example of it as well. If you call out the entire village about woke in video games, then they arrive and there's nothing there, you will have lost a lot of social capital for no good reason. Mr. Personality, Arch isn't racist enough. Time to kick him out of the club. The anti-black purity spiral. Why not? Xenophile Water, also, where did this new redefining of the stick come from? I took it from a copium from KSD2. This new narrative came out because with this new definition, you should accept female Space Marines. No, I should not. You know why? Because we can use the stick against female Space Marines. This has always been the definition of the stick. I just realized it now. This has always been the true nature of the stick. See, with female Space Marines, we have a very, very, very good argument. It will break law, it will break canon, it will break the universe, it will break immersion, it will go completely against all of the other existing law. We have countless arguments against female Space Marines. And all of these arguments will be very persuasive to the average normie, because it's persuasive to practically everyone. Giant super soldiers are better when they're male. That's a very, very simple argument to sell to a normie. Ginormous dudes with giant bulging muscles or vastly smaller females. And you can even then also say, we already have female Space Marines. They're called the Sisters of Battle. We have excellent ground against female Space Marines. That is a easily defendable position that we can then use as a stick, as a handle on the stick, to beat anyone who's arguing for it. However, again, cancelling KCD2, a 92% actually, positive approval rate game, bad ground, bad arguments that will be difficult to convince the majority of, because they'll probably never even see the wokeist nonsense. I mean, our argument will be, there's a guy 72 hours into the game that I don't like. Okay. Or, I mean, the fucking your best friend argument is probably the best one, but then again, the counter-argument is simply just, it's player choice and you can avoid it. Again, bad ground. Difficult to attack. It's all about, you know, choosing your battles, in essence, to sum it up in one simple sentence. Crossover Maniac, if you don't think the right can't use the stick too much, look at Jack Thompson and video games, so Jack Chick and Dungeons and Dragons. Ah, yes, absolutely. That's a good example too. Jack Thompson was, of course, an example of somebody who tried to use the stick without even really possessing the stick. And the thing that I went over in the porn video I did was the right-wing conservatives attempting to use their position of cultural power against their opponents, appearing ridiculous for doing so and losing cultural support to the left. The right can absolutely overuse the stick. Any position can overuse the stick. Alex Anderson, everyone claiming Arch is bad faith is a hypocrite. You're just mad because he's not agreeing with you and you feel betrayed, just like with Dev. Well, I haven't seen that, but I'm not bad faith. If I was bad faith, I wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't be speaking to you. Threadnought, it's my money. I will avoid giving it to wokeness and recommend others do the same. If you're daft enough to support them, that is your problem. And that is an entirely fine position as well. Again, not giving KCD2 money is not the problem here. It's already been given all the money it needs. It's already sold like 1 million copies. It doesn't need your money or my money, which is why, again, our money is irrelevant here. It is the cultural battle surrounding it that is important. Attacking it gains us nothing and loses us loads, whereas simply ignoring it, either by not purchasing it or simply just outright ignoring it completely, doesn't cost us anything, and does gain us something, as it is still a majority of the our side game. Not all serious. We're not purity spiraling. We're just complaining a game that rewards you for praying to Jesus Christ every day isn't Christian enough. Oh yeah, there is absolutely an element of purity spiraling, but there is always an element of purity spiraling. And it only grows worse once a movement enters into actual political power, because you do get more zealous people. And you also tend to get people who get swept up in the moment of things, just get really excited. And you also get people then coming in from the outside again. I'm sure you've already noticed this, but there's a lot more content creators today talking about this than back in the day. And there will only be more and more people talking about this. A lot of these people will not have had any history with this, and will only simply be getting on board to basically parrot the opinions that have already been established, but more vociferously, in the hope of getting ahead and gaining themselves their own audiences. There are quite a few examples of this already. It happened on the left as well. In fact, somebody like Vorsh is a pretty brilliant example of somebody who came fairly late to the game after having ridden off Destiny's coattails for a very long time, and then established himself as a more extreme figure, and began then, of course, also condemning the less extreme figures to build an audience around himself with the appearance of being an effective weapon against the opposition. Any ascendant power will obviously have people getting on board the train, catching the bandwagon. Barbarians on us for $20, thank you. Goddammit, I have not hydrated correctly. I'm out of practice after a week. I can't speak for 2 hours straight anymore. I missed a lot of the stream. I'll have to rewatch this later. After more blood clot treatment, I hope you had a good vacation, Mr. Arch. And I hope you're doing well too, Barbarians on us. Don't die on us now. Gotta be careful. Did I have a good vacation? I can't complain. It was perfectly fine. It was a nice hotel. They gave us plenty of food. I ate a lot of food. I walked outside. It was warm. It was warmer than here, which is nice. And it was reasonably pretty. So, it wasn't terrible, but I would have picked a different time to vacation in another 2 years. Particularly with how punishing the YouTube algorithm is now. This is not the time to let off the gas. Oh God, no. But, it's not bad. I went to the big little zoological park and all that, which is nice enough, Mr. Personality, Hades has gay romance and it's a good game, even if it is historically accurate. Good game? Is Hades historically accurate? I don't know, I haven't played it. Leon2699 on Rumble, thank you very much. We will burn the Western industry to the ground like a city with a plague. The second game industry collapse will happen. Go indie. I mean, it might. It very well might. In fact, it might even already have happened, and we are now simply merely slowly working it through the paces. Although, right, this vacation was ordered like months and months ago, so I usually keep quiet about this because it's more tenuous ground, but I was dating a chick around that time, and so we ordered rooms for 4 people, and then I managed to break up with her 4 months ago before we went, so we still had 2 rooms and everything and all that, so I had extra space, which was lovely. Besides, she was a bit of a terrible human being, frankly, so I probably dodged a bullet there. Still, hanging out in the deep south by oneself, not the ideal vacation either. But hey, the primary reason is for my father to have fun, because he loves going on these vacations to southern islands, even if I fucking hate it. And listen, your parents are like the most important thing you have. You gotta take care of them, especially when they're getting further on in the years. You gotta humor them a little bit, so if they want to take silly vacations to silly places, you gotta do it. You just gotta do it. You gotta do it. Even if it's not quite the right time, even if it's not particularly interesting for you, you gotta do it. Just one of those things. Sentinel Rex, how much poison is too much poison? I'll take none. Well, there's the question again, isn't it? How much poison is too much poison? See, sometimes poison can be beneficial, like chemotherapy, for example. But on other occasions, poison is obviously not good. But can you tolerate it? Chocolate is poisonous if you take enough of it. Meat is poisonous if you eat enough of it, because it'll simply just burst your innards, etc. Everything taken to the extreme can be poisonous, but at the same time, just a tiny bit of poison, say alcoholic beverages, for example, can actually be surprisingly pleasant. So there's that too. Adam Attackerman, what do? Off work. Read manga. That's always fun. I'm reading Kingdoms again. Kingdoms are a really good one. If you start reading Kingdoms now, you'll be busy for the next 6 months, probably. It's like 900 chapters long at this point. You'll be entertained for a while. Settle Rex, if some good things must fall, I'll take it to a win. So long as not too many of them fail, because then we won't get any more. Oh no, absolutism is the way to go. Zero tolerance only works when everything else has failed. Absolutism is the way to go. Zero tolerance only works when everything else has failed. I feel like these positions are mutually exclusive. Robert S., it may not be the best tool now, we weren't doe-eyed, but the right's superpower is forgiveness. It might unironically actually be, yes, it might actually be that it is better to include a lot of people rather than getting rid of them. Again, this is a question I've debated with both you and Sargon and many others. We can't become like the left that simply grows smaller and more insular year by year. We do need there to be some sort of way of redemption and reconciliation. But the question is, of course, how broad that path should be paved, how many should be allowed to, tread on it, and to whom we extend the invitation. And there's no one-size-fits-all answer to that. It's going to have to be basically on a case-by-case basis, which in and of itself is going to be difficult enough to figure out, but there does need to be some sort of path to redemption. Onu, the core is different to different people. I got into a war because of the buildings more than anything else. CA lost me when they simplified the building system. I never cared about combat. Absolutely. The core differentiates enormously also around people, but the core is usually defined as the people who show up no matter what, until something drastic change that people don't like. Go to redeem. Front loading is a problem with quality on some games, but also some woke games. Some cost fallacy over time is a problem. They may figure this. There is absolutely a problem where they will hide the wokeism away into the later portions. We're already seeing this in some games, where they'll kind of shunt it off to the back and then insert a little bit of politics at the end. Mark Shamed, KCD sold KCD 2, KCD 2 ended KCD 3. Possibly. I'm not convinced about that just yet, but we'll see. Elsa Serrana, I agree. I've already noticed myself automatically jumping on anything that looks like it might be DEI related. It's really starting to affect my enjoyment of games. I know. I know. It's a genuine issue that... but again, like, we developed this hypersensitive gaydar, in essence, for a very good reason. Because you needed to be able to notice. But the question is whether or not we can desensitize it once there is no longer as pressing a need to notice, I guess. Anti-Cookie Monster. We aren't winning. We aren't controlling any sticks. All we can do is tell the truth and some will follow. We will lose even that. We lie, we lose even that. This is lying. What is lying? The attacking KCD2 or what I'm saying? Because I don't think I am. I'm pretty sure this is correct. Like, the stick is obviously a metaphor for the majority, but using the majority to gain what you want to gain is, of course, politics. It's always been politics. Convincing the majority that you are what is best for them, and therefore utilizing their power to, well, get things to go your way? Why you hating? How about a toggle? Don't want something you see as woke in-game. Turn it off on the menu. Everyone's happy. Potentially.
Guarantees citizenship.
I mean, ideally speaking, you would have a solid modding industry where you could mod out Musa of Mali, for example. But I also don't like the idea of toggles necessarily, because a lot of the problem with woke stuff isn't even it being there, it is the reason for why it is there. Now, if the companies took the toggles themselves as a form of data point, like 98% of players toggled off Musa of Mali, then that might give them a strident indication that Musa of Mali is not popular, and therefore remove characters like him in future installments. But this is also where the intent question comes in, because if a thing is placed into the game with the intent of being political and the intent of it being woke, then you still have the person who put that in the game still there. And being unable to see it might mean that you'll ignore it, and that is when it really will start growing more cancerous. Especially as this is also a competency crisis. Now, it's an interesting question whether the competency crisis is because of political activism or because it's simply because way more people are making games, right? Because there is absolutely a competency crisis in video games right now. They're not made as well. The bugs aren't squashed as easily. The games they don't run as competently, you know? They're not pushing forward as much technology. Is this because the people who are making games now are simply making games as a job and they're all using Unity? That's probably a big part of it. Or is it also that a lot of the people who are in games right now don't have games as their foremost priority, but pushing politics is? That probably is also a big part of it. It's almost certainly a little bit of both. I'm not sure which one is the largest portion just yet. Honestly, I attribute a lot of the blame to Unity, straight up. And the codification of game making into simply just a series of pre-made modules that you clip together like a puzzle. It's removed a lot of the problem-solving aspects out of making games when, you know, for all of Peter Molyneux's countless failings, his ability to just go like, crazy idea, put it in the game, certainly did keep his team on their toes and made them constantly try to find new ways to implement his ridiculous nonsense in some way or another. Ornu for $20. Thank you very much, sir. I don't care for KC at all, so I don't pay much attention to it. From what I've heard, it seems the pushback is how bad Musa and gay friends are implemented, but everyone's screaming woke instead of bad writing. Yeah, that's also a thing. Because again, you can absolutely criticize the negative aspects of KCD too, and you should do so. I hate the fact that you can fuck hands, because that's just not the relationship that the two of them have. It's just not. They don't have a romantic relationship. They didn't in the first game, and they don't in the second game either. Like, they're bros. That doesn't need to get sexual. In fact, it getting sexual is weird. Really fucking weird. And probably woke. Probably due to the love bombing once more. As they went like, well, your game is really good, but, we really like hands. Could we have sex with hands, please? And then the developers decided to add it in for shits and giggles. Moggy of Atlas wanted to thank you. Been dealing with 2 deaths in the family, and realizing that re-listening to the Vrax and Baldur has helped me clear my head. Keep up the good work. Well, I'm very glad it's helped you, and I'm sorry for your loss, sir. That's terrible. Well, there's nothing you can. Every time somebody writes something like that, I'm like, okay, what can I say? I'm like, nothing I can say other than I'm sorry for your loss. My condolences. That's gotta suck. And I hope you'll get through it okay. Zero Firewater. Archley, if you find shit in your food, would you eat it? How much shit in your food would you tolerate? Remember, if you tolerate the shit in your food, you're asking for more. Well, if the alternative is starving to death, then I'll tolerate quite a lot of shit in my food. Again, that's the question here, isn't it? It's a matter of extremes. If I'm well fed and there's a turd in my food, I'll probably just push the bowl away. If I'm about to die, however, I'll probably eat the turd. I'll probably appreciate it for moisture at that point. Now, right now, we're probably at the not quite starving, but getting there point, where we now have the ability to push aside the food and ask for somebody else to make us food instead with less shit in it, choosing a non-woke game over woke games, for example. Again, the stick can be used both to punish and to reward. Vinicius Haas. This is a war for the mind and heart of the people. This is why the left infiltrated the beloved franchises. My problem was the overreaction against the normies. I saw more loss of support than gains. Absolutely. It is a war for the hearts and minds. That is a very good way of putting it as well. We do need to continue to maintain good relations with everybody else. Otherwise, we will lose our ground. Certified to Archley, it's because of the politics, because the woke push out computer people and gatekeep the new hires that adhere to that ideology. That is also true, and in turn, being less computer competence, they also will probably gravitate more heavily toward pre-packaged video game making software like the Unreal Engine and so on. Bit of a compounding problem that I really hate Unreal. I really do. I used to view it as a good thing because it obviously opened the game-making market to a lot of people. Never before has more people been able to make video games, which is, of course, great. But, man, it has done tremendous damage to the video game industry as a whole to allow anyone, no matter how uninterested, how uneducated, or how politically motivated, to start making games. At $100 million companies as well, unfortunately. Very unfortunate that. Unreal is fine when used properly. The issue is the overuse of the asset store. Well, yes, any tool is fine if used properly, but this one is clearly being used as a crutch rather than as a tool, which is again the problem. At least it's not CryEngine. I don't know. CryEngine was pretty good for a little while. Why would he need someone to take Total Biscuit's place? Probably multiple people. Yeah, I do miss TB. But then again, TB also went crazy near the end there. That was the problem. He really went nuts, but Total Biscuit was like for review purposes, a genuine giant. It was quite remarkable, but the only video game review that I actually watched pretty much was TB. And him getting cancer and going nutty-putty and fully drinking the left-wing Kool-Aid was not a good thing. Not a good thing at all. T. Volspunk, I hereby claim Mad Max as well as Furiosa as ours. You know, I didn't find Furiosa to be a particularly woke movie, honestly. I didn't think it was a particularly good movie either, but the reason why it flopped was largely because of Furiosa. Not necessarily because the character of Furiosa was all that woke. I mean, she's obviously a classic strong female character with all of the problems that has inherent within it. But because it's a Mad Max movie without Mad Max in it, in the current year as well, where people are going to see the female replacement and act doubly aggressive towards it, I just thought it was kind of a boring film, honestly. I mean, Thor did pretty well in it. Chris Hemsworth doubled down and played an excellent role, and he was by far the biggest bright spot in that entire movie, but the rest was just kind of meh. And at the end, you end up wishing that, you know, Chris Hemsworth will win and Furiosa will die simply because he's just a cooler guy, honestly. Which is not what you want out of your big franchise heroines, unsurprisingly. Ethan Rogers, I'm pretty sure you're supposed to dislike hate Musa. I don't think they're dumb enough to think you'll clap for the man trying to cuck you. I hope so. I do desperately hope so. Although, you never know in this day and age, do you? Fury Road was fine, but again, not enough Mad Max. Yeah, Fury Road was Fury Road. That was the other one, right? That was the one with actually Mad Max in it, right? Yeah. I thought Fury Road was actually pretty good. Furiosa, I didn't like. Fury Road, I thought was entirely fine for what it was. It's a little light on the Mad Maxing, I do agree. But I thought Fury Road was pretty okay. Yeah, pretty solid movie. Pretty solid. Enjoyable. A nice, fun little flick where they do dumb things with cars. And they did they did an excellent job with the design of, like, all of the vehicles and all of that stuff. That was excellent. I like that a lot. Let's see. Okay. 2 hour, I think I might need to call it there. I'm clearly out of practice already. My jaw hurts. It's not a sentence a man should ever have to express or utter, honestly. Plus, I need to get back to my good old-fashioned sleeping schedule of going to bed at 6 in the morning and waking up at like 5. But hopefully, and I know I'm probably just kicking the hornet's nest even more here by doing a video like this. I probably should just ignore it, but I genuinely do believe that we need to understand that we have to utilize the majority. And I think that if we do not do so, we will simply retread the same ground the left did. And I don't want to see another rise of the left wing to prominence. I would like to avoid that. I don't want to see us flame out and sputter out as quickly as the left did. 10 years is not enough for us to fully establish cultural dominance again, the likes of which we saw in the 2000s and late 90s. We need a lot longer, I think. So that's why I'm doing this now, even if it might be a little bit premature. Don't worry, we'll have some other more basic stuff later on, although I am very glad to have seen the Harlequin video. I really missed the fucking ad blocker thingy. I'm very happy to see the Harley
literal
Quinn video having done well. And that is literal hentai, by the way. Wait a minute, I didn't even edit the text in this at all. That is the original text. I'm still less whorish than the new Harley. That is the original text from, I think, like 10 years ago. Poor Harley. Poor little Harley. Everyone needs to watch this. This needs to get up there with the previous How Far We Have Fallen video. Watch now. We're at 36,000, 40,000, at least 50, 60. Go on. All of you. Now. Whoosh. It's a good video, I promise. Plus, Harley Quinn is a lovely character that is not given enough value, honestly. God, I missed it. See, again, I was rewatching all of the Batman stuff whilst I was doing this. Man, it's not rose-tinted glasses at all. It's not nostalgia. Entertainment was just simply better back then. So much better. Oh well. Alex Adamson, talk to Lum Lum. I'll consider it. And James Kuhn, Arch, it has gotten so bad that some people see Mass Effect as woke. Since we had Garden of Eden, we see characters full of color, sex, etc., and not just cool characters. Yeah, we do need to try and halt the purity spiraling if we can. Again, it's not going to be easy. It is going to be a difficult, long, and thorny road, but it has to be done. If we wish to retain our cultural relevance, we are going to need to have to analyze the errors that the left made and avoid making the same ones. I firmly believe so. Hopefully, I haven't scared off too many of you by stating that today. Anyways, I need to go and have some snacks now and do some more stuff, so until next time, we'll probably be resuming the regular schedule of things, probably later this week, I imagine. Probably even tomorrow, we'll see. Once I've gotten into my sleep schedule a little bit again. Till then, have a good day, chat, and I hope to see you all again soon. Have a good night.
I have lost.
Convincing reality sneaks in at the end there. The hand situation is a prime example of brain rot, not comprehending men can genuinely care for each other without wanting to bone. Frodo and Sam vibes. Yes, there are too many Fujoshis in the world that needs purging, that's for sure. Now then, good night, chat.